Hey Hardies, I'm Kaycee.
And I'm Cammie. Welcome to the Hardies Hotline,
your connection to Hope Valley.
We want to give a shout out to our friends at Edify Films, where you can get fabulous When Calls the Heart merchandise, like my hat.
And you can also get a fun When Calls the Heart game from our friends at the Bundle Game. Be sure to use discount code Hardies Hotline for 10% off.
We've got a fabulous episode for you today, full of laughter, tears, and heart.
So take a walk with us to Hope Valley and let's dive in.
Hey Hardies, welcome to the Hardies Hotline. I know that there are a lot of mixed emotions even now. And just picture that this is Monday morning that we are recording this. And so our feelings are still relatively fresh. So hopefully everything, because we're airing this on Wednesday, hopefully things have settled a little bit. Hopefully we're breathing a little bit easier. But I am choosing to look at the happy because I finally get my best friend on a podcast. Yay! Everybody, may I introduce you to Sarah Nitch, our special guest for today, and my wonderful writing partner.
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah, and I am thrilled to be here finally for the first time on the podcast. Kind of wish it was under different circumstances, with a little less mixed emotions out there in the world, but
I'm not gonna lie.
really excited to be here nonetheless, and I have lots of fun, exciting things to talk about.
Okay, so let's dive in. Now, what I'd like to start with is I want to talk about characters who are gonna be okay. Characters that everything is good, everything is resolved. We don't have to worry about them anymore, because there's been a lot of worry and a lot of angst and a lot. There's been a lot of that kind of stuff all season. So characters that are gonna be okay, and we know they're gonna be okay. Let's start with the Canfield family.
Oh.
Oh.
There were so many beautiful moments with them. Oh my goodness.
So
I am in love with Minnie. She's so endearing.
She is. I'm gonna start off by saying that yes, she is. There was one point where I was getting a tiny bit of whiplash with her, and that was, I guess it's because she has bitterness towards different kinds of people. But she talked about the doctor that she took Angela to see when she was 2 and came down with the measles, and because the doctor refused to see her, Angela lost her sight, which would make any mother bitter. And the fact that she took the time to tell Carson, you're different. And she said, thank you, Carson, for helping to get that bitterness out of my heart. But then she kind of reverts back to that bitterness with Elizabeth and gets angry again all over with the school system. But what frustrated me a little bit in that moment was the fact that Elizabeth was saying, come. She was saying, I'm standing up for what's right, and I want Angela there.
When it comes, I will tell you, as somebody who is of Asian descent, when it comes to race, it is triggering. It is absolutely triggering. I do not blame Minnie for all of a sudden closing up and becoming quote unquote bitter again with the school system, because she and her family have probably been burnt so many times. That's why she didn't trust Elizabeth. That's why she doesn't trust the school system. She finally gained trust because Elizabeth told her, made all these promises. She doesn't know Hope Valley. She doesn't know how the Hope Valley people are. They're still brand new. They've only been in town for 3 to 6 months. They don't have trust in people yet. They don't know that Hope Valley is this wonderful place where everybody gets together regardless of your circumstances, who you are, what your religion is, and what your race is. She doesn't know that. So like, personally, I don't blame her. I don't blame her for shutting down those walls because it's a very triggering topic, especially when it comes to race, especially when you've been burned by doctors and teachers and who knows who else. I mean, we don't know what happened at their church. Did they get shut down because it was a race issue? What, I mean, is that why they moved to Hope Valley? We don't know. But we do know that they have been really affected by that. And I do not blame her at all for being upset with Elizabeth because I would have been the same way.
It doubles up on the disappointment. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see it.
And mama bear issues. I mean,
oh, mama bear.
I mean, you're being asked to take a stand and put your child in the potential hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's hard enough to take that and put that kind of pressure on yourself, to be in that much pressure, in a highly controversial topic, and to think of putting your child through that, who's already been through a lot and already has a lot of challenges in their life. It just sounds so difficult.
And the other thing too, I mean, with any mother, if their child suffers, especially when it comes to Angela's blindness that could have been prevented, there is always going to be that I could have, should have, would have done this differently. If I would have gone here, if I would have taken her the 50 miles instead of the 20 miles, if I would have just caught it in time, even if it's like something that was out of your control, as a mom, that is always what we go to.
Oh yeah.
And so that's why she's going to be overprotective. That's why she's going to immediately just be like, Angela, no, here, bubble.
Yeah.
She's got to protect her because she was 2 years old at that time. New mom, small child, measles, being rejected by doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just so many layers there that I feel for Minnie so much in the circumstance she's in. And I definitely see it from her perspective.
Oh, I saw it from her perspective. I guess I just thought that she would have, I don't know. I guess that I thought that she would have appreciated the fact that Elizabeth didn't want to give up, but instead it turned her off. And that just kind of threw me for a loop. Oh, okay. But no, I totally got the feeling side of it. I totally got that. I just wondered about that choice that Elizabeth was trying to stand up for her, and it still made her angry. But
I think her wall just went up.
Yeah, the wall just went back up.
She heard that what the promise had been wasn't necessarily the reality, and she just got her defenses.
Yeah, and that is a big issue, is the promises, and then for a moment it looked like they were going to be broken. But that scene of Minnie and Joseph together on the steps, I think that something that Joseph said needs to be the theme of this entire episode. It's time to stop running.
Ooh.
And when you think about all the characters who have been running this entire season from so many emotions, circumstances, situations, all kinds of things. And Joseph says it plain out. It's time to stop running. I thought that was profound. And I just went, Joseph, you just said the mantra for the entire episode. And so I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but that's something that I hope we see in season 9, is there's still going to be conflict. There's still going to be things that need to be resolved and things that need to be handled. But I hope that they'll come together again as a town, and that they'll stop running. Okay. And then let's talk about that final scene on the first day of school with the Canfield family.
Didn't that just give you chills?
Totally.
Oh, I definitely teared up.
I was crying. So Hardy's a bit of backstory last night.
these ladies all joined me. Plus Jess did too. But these ladies all joined me, and we were all watching together on a Zoom at midnight Central Time. So we were all crying into the Zoom cameras together. I was watching it for the first time, but it was sweet to not have to cry alone.
Well, I'm glad you felt that way. I actually did it for the second time, but
Oh, well, so for this scene, I'm a teacher, so
Yeah.
this really was touching. It's so nice when you see a community of any kind come together, whether that's, where you live or a school community. Just to see, I loved the things that the children said when Angela and Cooper came outside, and they were just like, we're all here for you. I mean, imagine what that meant to Angela.
Do you remember what Allie said?
Not word for word, but don't you have it down? Yeah.
I do. She quoted Robert's graduation speech, "We're better together," which I thought was so profound coming from a child, because there are profound words that come from adults who have a lot of history, a lot of experience, but when a child recognizes, Anna said, all of us or none of us. And Allie says, we're better together. It showed the Hope Valley spirit in the children. Usually it's the adults that come together. We've seen the children come together, but we haven't in a while.
Right.
And
they've said this was hard for them to film with children this year.
Oh, with the COVID
I'm
thing.
glad that they made the effort to have all of those kids in that scene. Everybody was there.
Yeah.
And just that moment of levity when Cooper's legs are dangling.
Oh my gosh, that was
So cute. He's just precious. He's like my favorite new child.
He is so precious. He is adorable. And like, you're coming too? Hot dog. Such a cute kid. Such a cute kid. Viv Leacock, you're raising an adorable child. He probably would hate to hear me. He probably would hate to hear me say that, calling him an adorable child. But oh well, sorry, I'm a mom.
Oh yes, but and both of his kids just did a wonderful job this season, being just so present on screen. Like they got the characters. They did it.
Yeah. Especially Vienna playing a blind girl, and
how challenging that would be.
And this is her first acting gig, I'm pretty sure.
She was in a Christmas movie too, but I don't know when.
Okay, but it's definitely her first principal character acting gig. And then to jump right into playing a blind girl, and she doesn't know how to play the piano, so she had to fake that. It's just, she was very impressive. Very impressive.
I kind of wonder if she studied Mary Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie, the TV show.
Yeah, would not surprise me.
Watching her, because Mary was very young when she lost her eyesight in Little House on the Prairie in the series. So
15.
Yeah, so it was it just was very reminiscent for me.
And Melissa Sue Anderson did that impeccably for a long time. I remember hearing her once on a Good Morning America interview. She said that she got letters from blind people who had been told by their friends and family watching the show how good of a job she did, and some people even think that the actress went blind. And I just thought, wow, that's dedication to your role. So,
for sure.
Okay, next characters that are gonna be okay. Everything is fine with them. Jesse and Clara.
We got a lot of resolution, didn't we?
We
did.
I mean, for their season, like their characters really
Yeah.
came a long way and still have some ways to go, but they're working on it. And yeah.
Now that I can appreciate, looking back at the Team Classy arc, because I'm not gonna lie, there are a few moments I was like, oh,
Ready to punch somebody out.
what is going on here?
Yeah.
Because I felt it was so uncharacteristic of Clara to be so like screamy the entire season. Now, granted, she had good reason to. I mean, I would be putting my husband in the doghouse if that he lost all our money, all our hard-earned money, and I would be very livid. So it's not that. There was just there's some moments I was kind of confused, but looking back at their entire arc of, they're so young couple in love, got married, a few months into it, it's not all roses and daisies. They're having these like moments of strife and stuff like that. While there were moments I was kind of like, what? At the same time, now I'm like, okay, I can see what you were doing with Jesse and Clara, because the first year of marriage is always very hard to combine lives, to combine finances, and things that you didn't realize about the other person now comes up because you're living with them and all of this stuff. And sometimes your best people bring out the worst in you.
Let's face it, we've all been married multiple years. We know what that's like.
Yes, our 9-year anniversary is next Tuesday. So
I know.
yes. So I mean, we're almost at a decade now. So I feel like I could say that. But yeah, I appreciated the fact that we saw Clara really learn that life shouldn't be taken for granted. Marriage shouldn't be taken for granted, especially a love with Jesse, despite all of his flaws, all of her flaws. Now, I would have liked to see where did he just get lost?
Where did he go? That is the one point that I'm having trouble with. They never say. It
was
never
very
said.
confusing.
It just, all of a sudden, Nathan shows up with him wrapped in a blanket, and I listened very carefully the second time I watched it. The only thing Jesse says is, "I'm sorry." And Clara says, "You're never going out on another survey again," which he works for Lee. He's his right-hand man. Sorry, sweetheart, that's not going to happen. But that did not make sense. So we know they're going to be okay. We just want answers.
Yeah.
I do want to know where. I want to know where the heck Jesse was. Even if he had just said, "I was lost in the dark and I got turned around too many times." Or
how long was he gone?
Yeah, that's the other thing. We don't know.
Because he didn't have his car, because they found his car.
With Lee's car. Yeah.
That he had. And he didn't look that bad when he came back. He didn't look dirty or
no branches scratched.
Right, yeah, no scrapes or messed up clothes, and
yeah,
didn't really look tired even.
He jumped right off that horse and ran to his wife, which is a good thing.
And yeah, so it was a little confusing. I was like, so were you in a cave? Was there a mine nearby? There's lots of mines nearby. What was going on?
He can't have gone into an abandoned mine because Clara wasn't there.
Yeah, that was
mines are sacred places in Hope Valley.
Yeah, that was really strange. I feel like there was all this buildup and then we got no answer for where he was or what happened to him.
Yeah.
It was strange.
But they get to go on a second honeymoon because all their money's back.
Yippee!
Yippee! Okay, so do you guys think that they're now going to buy at least part of the cafe now?
I think it's definitely a possibility.
I think so. I think it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I think that would be a nice way for Clara to really have more roots. She's really kind of bounced around.
She has.
She came and has really kind of struggled to find what she loves. she loves doing a lot of things, but really doesn't have one thing that she's able to really dive into.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would, and now that the dress shop is more than likely going away, that's an unresolved topic, but it's not something that is cliffhanging. You know, we'll probably find out in the next season what's going on with the dress shop, but it's more than likely that it's going to be sold. And so with it selling and Clara no longer having a job there, and Fiona's back in town, and they don't really need two hairstylists for Hope Valley, unless, you know, Fiona does the men and Clara does the women, and then they switch off or whatnot. So, I mean, it's possible for Clara to still keep working. And if she bought part of the cafe, then, you know, she wouldn't have to work the hours to get paid for the cafe.
Mhm.
So
Right, and it seems like Minnie is possibly going to be working there.
For a good long while. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
that's a nice, I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing though, and there's, you know, been lots of talk. I know a lot of people have said that versus bringing new characters to Hope Valley, old characters might be brought back. So maybe Dottie comes back to run the dress shop.
Mhm.
Now that would be fun.
Maybe.
if Dottie
Maybe.
came back, that would be a lot of fun.
You know, maybe we see Wilma again. She was into sewing. She made her
Yeah.
you know, that's a possibility. It'd be really awesome to see Kat again if
Mhm.
it ever
Well,
happens.
somebody's got to make up somebody's got to keep making the candles.
I mean, they're running out. And then my personal choice, I'd really love to see Mary.
Mary, I was just gonna say Mary, Sarah.
I would love to see them again.
Oh, Mary, not so contrary. She was wonderful.
So there's definitely other options for people to work different jobs in the town, or bring in new businesses, or
Mhm.
that business has always been there.
Mhm.
Person's been busy doing.
All right. Final couple that we don't have to worry about. Our favorite, Flo-Yo.
Yay, Flo-Yo with Ned inventing the Band-Aid?
So apparently, yeah.
Who knew?
Who knew?
What'd you say, Sarah?
Oh, it's what a surprise. Bringing something in that everybody knows about, and bringing this different twist to it. And, you know, I mean, he did say he was going to be getting a patent, so maybe there's going to be trouble with that later, and maybe they're not the inventors of the Band-Aid, but there's a really good chance here that, you know, they could be millionaires going into a couple seasons from now.
They can bring Hope Valley to new heights. You know?
They can, yeah, exciting.
Oh, I forgot one more. Okay, now this is the final couple that we know is gonna be okay. Lee and Rosemary. Yes, Team Coulters.
Coulter. Man, I
We're
always got
so
so
sweet.
Coulter with a flag, really proud.
Wave that flag. Wave that flag.
You know, there was so much magic in that scene with the two phones.
Oh my God.
That was just like one of, what was it, like season 4, when we had the just classic and Lee scenes, like with the laryngitis and everything. Like that was just what I think will go down as a really great scene for the two of them.
It was the perfect Lee
funny.
and Rosemary scene.
It really encapsulated who both of them are individually and how they treat each other in their relationship. Him trying to like,
that
urge her into talking herself up.
I loved how he was tapping the desk, and up. Yes.
I think one of my favorite things about Kevin is how he is has so many expressions, and he can really make a scene without saying a word. And that was just a great example of that.
He has great physical comedy. I mean,
Oh.
we found that out with the laryngitis episode, but I mean, we had never seen anything like it from him. And we really saw just how big of an acting chop he had. And then it's only grown since then. And he really does have fantastic physical comedy and can work his body to tell so much without using his mouth at all. And the other thing that I loved about that scene is it showed how well the two of them know each other. You know, all he had to do was tap the table and lift his hands up, and she knew exactly what he meant. You know, and
Totally.
so there was that total marriage for a long time, nonverbal communication going on there. So even though we did not get a resolution to the infertility or a permanent resolution to them having a family, we know they're going to be okay because they both found a calling. And you know, it brought a lot of things back with the mimeograph. That was the one that Jack carried into the classroom for Elizabeth in season 5, and that they did the newsletter on. And so now she's going to expand, which will be really fun to see. But she did her first edition of the Valley Voice, which was a beautiful name.
That was gorgeous. And it's so perfect for her.
It is. It's so perfect for her. And we got to see the very first edition and the effect it had on the entire town, which was really great.
Yes, that was filmed beautifully. I loved just the kind of all the different people getting it in the morning and having that. Like they all so happy to read it. It was just shows that supportive community that they all want to be a part of that, and they are all supporting her.
Yeah, that was super fun. I need more of the Coulters.
Yes.
I need way more of the Coulters. I'm very excited to see where their relationship goes next. We all know what Kaycee wants. Kaycee's been saying this for the last 5 years.
How hard can Kaycee wink? Is your elbow a little sore from all the nudging there? We all want the Coulters to have a child in some form or fashion, either through adoption or through conceiving one of their own. I do have to say, while I totally 100% support the adoption storyline, and it would be so sweet and so endearing, I gotta know what Rosemary would look like pregnant. Not look physically, but how she would act. Because, can you just imagine Rosemary, big, flamboyant, personality Rosemary, 9 months pregnant?
There would be a lot of physical comedy in that.
Yes.
Lee running all over the row house trying to meet her every demand. And when she went into labor, him freaking out and trying to put a pillow behind her back and then run and go get Faith and then come back. And it would be so funny.
It would be funny.
It would cause some great physical comedy.
Yes.
So,
I obviously 100% agree. We could have the best of both worlds. I mean, Pascal even said the Coulters thrive best on chaos.
Yes.
And it like, how fun would it be if they like adopted a sibling set and then they got pregnant and then they all of a sudden in 3 years they have 4 children.
I mean, whoa, twins? Whoa, pregnant with twins?
Irish twins, sure.
Man, you're just throwing every hook in it, aren't you?
Anything can happen in Hope Valley. You never know.
That's totally for sure. Right. Let's transition a little bit from the Coulters into Rosemary and Elizabeth. Now, I purposefully didn't put them in couples that are going to be okay because the friendship has survived. this very big scuffle.
Mhm.
And because they're best friends and because they know each other as well as they do, there are going to be more scuffles, but I don't think that there's going to be anything that big again.
No.
And I don't quite know how to describe Rosemary other than she was just waiting for the words. I mean, the moment that Elizabeth said, "Do you forgive me?" And I love how she held up, "Do you forgive
That
me?
was really funny.
Do you forgive me? Peace offering." And I mean, Rosemary, it was as if she would, oh, I'm gonna cry. Sarah, this is like
That's
you
so
and me
sweet.
this is like you and me getting in a really bad fight, you know, and just like I can't picture it. And so
I know. I was like, wait, what?
no, if we did, I don't know if I could be able to handle it. And if, you know, if Kaycee or Jess and I got in a really big fight, I wouldn't be able to handle it either. The podcast would suffer big time. But it was as if all Rosemary needed to hear was the words. That was all that was holding her back. The second Elizabeth was ready to ask for her forgiveness, she flooded it on her.
Well, and that's
she
the
went
point.
past the muffins completely, you know.
Well, Elizabeth, you know, I know she's gotten better as a cook, but is she really that good?
At least compared to Rosemary.
It's exactly what you just said. She was waiting for Elizabeth to be ready. It wasn't necessarily the words, but she knew Elizabeth wasn't ready to have a conversation or to revisit that topic with her. And she was waiting for her to be ready, because you can't force that.
Yeah.
And you could say that about a lot of different things that happen on this show, but you know, it's like you have to wait until that person has reached the acceptance of whatever they're trying to realize.
Yeah.
And if she realized that and is ready to have that conversation with Rosemary, they can't move forward. So it really seemed to me like it was really showing how wise Rosemary has become, that she just,
Yes.
it tore her apart, but she knew she had to wait for Elizabeth to get there and Elizabeth to see it herself.
And when Rosemary is someone who has been in the past so inclined to fly off the handle, she didn't.
And to push their own opinion.
Yes. Yes, she has flown off the handle. She's acted dramatically and rashly, and she has pushed her own opinion. And there was none of that with
She's
Elizabeth.
grown so much.
She really has. She really, really has.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful scene.
Okay.
Of that. And then when they went inside and spoke to each other, like, she now knew that Elizabeth was ready to hear what she had to say and her feedback on the situation, her beautiful words about Jack, just being able to even talk about Jack with Elizabeth was kind of new. Like, Elizabeth has gotten to that point now where we can talk about him without running away from the conversation.
Because she's been shutting down almost all the other talk. Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. I will admit that I would not have expected it, but I almost burst out. I got teary-eyed, but I almost burst out crying when she said Jack was for a season. I was like, no. No, that's not the way it was supposed to be. It got triggered. All of our talk about triggers. But yeah, it's when she said Jack was for a season, oh my gosh. Yeah, because it was only for a little while, and Jack is not meant to be her lifetime. And it just made me sad.
Yeah. That's hard. That's really hard. And I think that was kind of what she needed to hear at that point. She's been clinging to that lost, was, you know, the idea that he was her lifetime. It helped put into perspective for her that what she had lost. You know, your perspective as you get married is that this is my lifetime, and that's she was looking forward to with Jack, and that's what she thought he was. And then to lose that, she was still kind of clinging to that.
Yeah.
And hearing it in that kind of concise way, I think helped her put things in perspective, helped me see kind of more the overarching picture of her life and everything.
All right. Let's move into the reason for the title of this episode.
That happened right behind me.
Oh, well, Kaycee, you must be okay if you're visiting the location. All right, so obviously this is a mixed feeling subject, and it's touchy for a lot of people. And there are fans, including myself, who, and including all three of us on here, who are disappointed, and that we were Team Nathan, we were gunning for Team Nathan, and we honestly thought that Nathan was going to be the choice.
For a multitude of reasons, honestly. But
I'm sorry?
Oh, I said for a multitude of reasons, honestly.
Yeah.
Which if you've heard our podcast, or if you haven't listened to our podcast, go back and listen to our podcast as to why. But go ahead.
But the goal has always been Elizabeth's happiness. That's something that Kevin McGarry said on his Entertainment Tonight Facebook Live with Deidre, that it's always been about Elizabeth's happiness. And so we're going to move forward. It's going to take time, and that's okay. So let's chat. Let's chat it out. So
Well, I mean,
I'm a bit at a loss.
His character said that. I mean, in that brief conversation at the end between Nathan and Faith, you know, they said that comment too, which, you know, was kind of, I thought, nice that Faith said it, because she was talking about Carson and something we can go into later, but she was, you know, saying, you know, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to get through this. And I felt like that line was kind of partially to cover her storyline and partially as that message of hope to Nathan. She didn't necessarily know that she was giving him a message of hope, but I felt like it was, like, it touched him. He was like, yeah, you're right. You know, that it is going to take some time. But I also think it was a message to Hardee's.
Like, it was a threefold message. Absolutely.
Yeah, give it some time, internalize what you need to, and just, you know, take care of yourself. That's okay. It's okay to be hurt. Okay, to be surprised or disappointed or upset, because that's what people would feel in real life if they were going through a situation like that.
Yeah.
You want to go?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'll be honest. I didn't love it. I did not really love how they did the whole triangle. I don't really love the fact that I feel like, because everything was so Nathan centric this entire season, with the adoption, with all of the issues that he had been going through, with all the I love yous, with the love is worth fighting for, with all of Elizabeth looking after him while being with Lucas watching that, with Lucas acknowledging that, all of these different things throughout season 8. And then with her buttoning up the jacket, which is kind of twofold. Now I'm like, oh, okay. But giving us that sense of hope, especially after the hand-holding incident, especially after the blindfold game incident, and just different things like that. I just didn't love how they handled the ending. I feel like they could have done the season a little bit differently, but still have the same ending with Elizabeth and Lucas, but still make it satisfactory for people who prefer Nathan. I think there are just a lot of things that just didn't make sense to me watching this. I can get behind Elizabeth and Lucas. That's not the issue. I can get behind Elizabeth and Lucas. I just wish they wouldn't have used Nathan in such a way for him to always get the short end of the stick. I feel like if they would have, I don't know, maybe provided another person for him to be interested in, maybe like there's like these like little flirtatious little like glances or whatever for us to kind of know and to prepare ourselves mentally for Nathan to move on without Elizabeth. I feel like we could have been okay. I feel like we could have been like, oh, okay, you know, I can kind of dig these two people together. But it just felt like everything was like ripped out from under me. These are raw feelings at 1:41 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Monday after the show. So I will probably be more fine later. But yeah, and here's the other thing too. I just want to encourage people who prefer Nathan, like, look at why you like Nathan. See, for me, as I was thinking about it and as I'm still processing this thing, why was I team Nathan? Well, it's because I like Nathan. I like Nathan as a character. Do I love him with Elizabeth? Did I want him with Elizabeth? Yes. Did I love him with Elizabeth? Like, we didn't even really get that chance. And I feel like I love Nathan more as a character separately than I love his potential relationship with Elizabeth. I feel like next season they're gonna have to do some major justice for Nathan. Like, they're gonna have to bring some new girl in to be amazing and to love him for who he is, and she's just gotta be like the best person ever. Because I cannot handle another season of this like push and pull with Nathan. I just can't. And I think how I feel about being on Team Nathan, it's really because I really just love Nathan as a character more than I love his relationship, or his lack thereof, his potential relationship with Elizabeth. So yeah. Also, just to throw this out there, if you read the Karen Kingsbury books with Bailey Flanagan, hit me up in my DMs. It's Hallmark My Words on Twitter. We can talk about that later.
Duly noted. Check. All right, Sarah, give us your take.
Oh boy. Well, like both of you said, I was Team Nathan. At the heart of it, I was Team Nathan because I saw more potential with Elizabeth with him. And also, like you said, Kaycee, I liked his character. His character is very noble. He's a very courageous person who's not only in his job, but in stepping up and taking care of Allie. Like, that just shows what kind of character he is and what kind of man he is. And to me, that just was very compelling and something that I wanted to see more of. And also, I think he's just more my type. Like, if I was still dating, like, he's more the type of person I would want in my life versus a more polished, more sophisticated person who I feel like you don't get as emotionally much emotional depth from in a group setting. I felt like he was just a little more, Lucas was a little more closed off. And so I wasn't like attracted to that quality as much early on in the series, or when he joined the series. But having said that, I'm ultimately, Team Hope Valley. I'm ultimately like, what's best for this town and what can make us move forward. So while I was shocked by everything, I wasn't, and I really, like, I've watched it 3 times now by the next day, and each time I've kind of seen some different aspects of it and come to terms with some different things. So I'm still surprised. I'm still very curious where it's going to go. And like you said, and I think they would do this no matter who she had picked. I feel like they would be looking at bringing somebody in next season for the other person, so that we can see that person move on, so we can see some resolution for them, and some more happiness for them. But I ultimately, I'm intrigued. I like that there was there was some deep romantic moments that, while I wouldn't have picked everything about it, there were things that I pulled out that I was like, that's really a good line, or I love the way they looked at each other. Like, there were certain things that were so romantic and so sweet. And I was really happy to see Elizabeth happy again, because it has been a very long time. And I was really happy to see how fully it was perfect for the words that Rosemary had said earlier to her about, once you know in your heart, you'll be able to throw yourself into that person's arms.
Mm-hmm.
And she was. And I really loved that kind of connectedness in the story of seeing her work through that, and seeing her accept where she wants to go. And she was more confident then, and she was more comfortable, and she had a bigger smile than we've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And those were all things that just made me really happy, regardless of other aspects of it. So I'm definitely still saddened and surprised, and I'm still kind of coming to terms with all of that. But I was able to really pick out some things that really resonated with me for the outcome.
Yeah.
And hopeful.
I will say too, I do kind of wish that they wouldn't have pushed the whole love is worth fighting for, and instead replace that with love is patient. Because especially with Lucas being the end, the one who wins Elizabeth's heart in the end, I kind of wish that was more of a focus. And we do see it a little bit, like at the wedding when they say love is patient, it pans to them, but that was it. I kind of wish I had more Lucas centric stories than him just like taking it in, watching it all happen. The whole incident with his mother, and what would you know of love, like that was good. We saw him kind of loosen up, and then all of a sudden they get together, and it's just very, I don't know, it was just interesting to watch Elizabeth be still closed off to him, but then them being in a relationship in very romantic settings. I feel like we could have gone deeper with Lucas's character, especially in those dates. A lot of the time the conversations would revolve around Nathan. I mean, I think that if they would have changed the conversations to be more about themselves and their relationship and going deeper, and Elizabeth explaining her fears, even, and maybe not going that deep, but maybe just starting to open up to Lucas, I think I wouldn't have been as shocked. But instead it was this like, this, I don't know, it was just strange. It was just very, very strange to me how they handled the whole
Well, and
thing.
keep in mind though, and I think we talked about this before we were recording, but we don't know when they knew during filming who they were picking. Some of the reports have said, mid season 8. So
yeah, when they started filming episode 1, they did not know, and so we don't know when they knew.
We don't know when that decision was made, and that makes it really hard to write to give clues as to who the end game is if the writers don't know who the end game is when they're writing those earlier episodes of the season. I personally definitely, my biggest disappointment is really that the triangle lasted as long as it did, because that makes you that much more invested in whatever side you're on.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to let go, and it's harder for you to envision the guy not with her if you've been envisioning that as endgame. And I think that's the hardest part. And I don't, we don't know why they chose to have it go the exact length that they did. I'm sure there are factors that we don't know about, but bottom line, it is a TV show, and they're trying to have the TV show on as long as possible. They're trying to keep viewers interested and coming back, and they succeeded in that. And if they had hinted, I don't know if I had had the inkling that it was going for sure one direction. I mean, I don't know if my gut feeling of it's going to be Nathan was fully based on clues that I was seeing, because I know there were clues, but I also know there were clues to Lucas also. So I don't know how much of that was me hoping and just putting that pressure on it, because no, I do that with things.
Yep.
There were clues going both ways. And so, and part of that was probably because they didn't know for a time. And then part of it was probably just because they didn't want to give it away.
Yeah. I didn't love Lucas in season 7, but when I started watching season 8, I was like, no, fresh
Right?
start. They said they're going to resolve this. And I really
And Lucas was great this season. He really was.
He was
Great
doing everything. He was doing everything that he should have.
Yeah.
He was doing everything that he should have. And that's why I'm hesitant to take it all out on Lucas.
No,
You
you
know?
know what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and
No,
I guess I feel so bad for Chris right now. what an awful position he's in right now.
I know.
I mean, Kevin's getting all this sympathy.
But the thing is, though, Elizabeth is the one who chose. I think that's the one we have to remember. Elizabeth is the one who chose. I think both guys probably would have been fine if it wasn't them.
Yeah.
I think that, looking at it objectively, good for Lucas.
Right?
Good for him on saying, hey, listen, I see you are still in love with Nathan, or whatever he said in episode.
There's still something going on.
And just kind of lets her go, because at that point, it's Elizabeth's decision.
She put the ball in her court.
Absolutely. So I can appreciate that Lucas, in a sense, was chosen because for Lucas. I mean, I think all of this backlash on Lucas being like, he tricked her or whatever. I don't know what the backlash is really. I kind of try to ignore that. But if people are taking their frustration out on Lucas, and they're taking their frustration out on Chris, well, first of all, Chris is an actor. He doesn't have any say really, and for him. And Lucas, he gave Elizabeth the world and said, "Here, you figure it out."
Yeah. For me, the big thing that disappoints me is we never got a chance with Nathan. We didn't get to see what it might have looked like. So I feel that the character of Elizabeth didn't really explore what it would have been like to be in love with Nathan. Yeah, we hear she's projecting Jack onto Nathan, but if she had gone past projecting Jack onto Nathan and had gone on a couple of dates with him and not constantly been fleeing the scene. See, that was a thing. We kept on getting deprived of all of these moments with Nathan, which is why I thought that they were saving them up. I thought they were saving them up. And so the fact that Nathan didn't get a fair shot, the fact that Nathan didn't get to be a hero, he wasn't given a chance, that is what disappoints me. And how the triangle ended. Now, I will give complete kudos to the passionate reunion on the bridge. And just wow, these two are very happy to be together.
Really was a beautiful scene. Cinematography, I mean, the lighting,
the panning of her, and then slide over, and there he is.
And she was so emotional. Seeing her that emotional helped me be invested in that scene more. Aaron did such a lovely job.
Yeah, it was. I was sad and I was disappointed that it was not Nathan, and that we feel unresolved with Nathan's side of the story. But for Lucas, he left, he came back and those shoulders were heaving. But skipping ahead to that final scene. I'm glad they did the final scene because I think ending on the bridge would have been a little it would have been a little shaking. It would have been very, very startling.
Yeah.
And to see them both settled, to see them both at ease.
Yes.
For once. to see Elizabeth in full-on flirt mode.
Which really was adorable.
It was sweet. It was very sweet, and and his the very handsome the very handsome man down front.
That was so cute.
Cute, flirty. The big thing I wish is that if Lucas was going to be the end game, to see a little bit more yearning for him in her life. It felt like she was always trying to escape to him. And like you said, Kaycee, a lot of the conversations with Lucas were about Nathan. And so I would have liked to see a little bit more yearning to have him in her life. I think that would have been a little bit easier to swallow instead of it just looking like she's trying to escape.
But she was at that time.
I know she was, but it didn't appear to me that she couldn't live without him. That's what.
Because she didn't. I don't think she
didn't know. She didn't know, but I specifically remember when my husband told me that he was going to move away, that immediately my heart dropped, and that was before I knew that I liked him. And when I thought about what life would be like without him, it made me sad. And I don't know, I would have liked to see a little bit more of not just enjoying the flirtation, but maybe not pursuing it, but just trying to come to terms with it. I don't know. I would have liked to see a little bit more of her wanting him in her life. But that all being said, the final moment, I'm going to be very curious to see how this all plays out. And we will, they better have one dang good love story. And if he holds little Jack, then I will be inclined to support this pairing.
Yes, I think that will make a tremendous effect on a lot. To see them interact more.
Yeah, and I think that he just needs to loosen up a little bit. I would just love to see him get rid of that vest.
And even if it's just for scenes with just Elizabeth.
Yeah.
I get that he's this formal guy and he's a businessman and being out in public, I can see him keeping that persona for the most part. But yeah, it would be nice to see him let his hair down a little bit.
Yeah, just loosen up. I mean, I guess Leo is always up in a suit and if like a 5-piece or whatever, but his character is just so jovial that you kind of forget that he's
easygoing.
Yeah, I would just like to see Lucas kind of like just let his hair down.
Well, and I guess that leaves something for season 9, right? There's room to grow.
There is so much left for season 9.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things to find out with season 9. Okay, hearties, we are out of time. So we will probably be back a little bit here and there because we didn't get to everything, but we will see where this goes. And we will be here, and we love all of you, and we hope that you have a marvelous day. Bye.
Bye, y'all.